Well, for instance, let's see. We say we support the separation of government and religion. How do you all stand on that issue?
Well, Dan and I are of different religions, and so the one thing we definitely agree on is that the separation between the government and religion is a critical thing. And I personally believe in the last 8 years, we certainly had too much mixing of that. And I would certainly like to see there to be a lot more separation between it. My personal feelings are that there should be no federal money sent to religious organizations because of that particular part of our Constitution. Now, I know there's a lot of money and there's a lot of religious organizations that do very good work, but simply because of that part of our Constitution, I believe that we need to have that separation. And it's not because I'm against supporting religious organizations, because that's not my point at all. I just think as a matter of government and a matter of the way that our government is set up, that we need to have a very strong divide there.
If I could just add, many times people on the conservative side of the aisle will say that we should look towards our founding fathers, and on this issue I have to agree, because you have Thomas Jefferson, who affirmed to the Danbury Baptists that the First Amendment does create a wall of separation between church and state. So let's follow the founding fathers and what they had intended for our country.
It is a matter of constitutionality, which has been violated over decades. But you're right, in the last administration, it was flagrantly violated. And then this matter of giving money to faith-based organizations. Now, until actually the president had asked Congress to pass some legislation for this purpose, to give money to a new term, faith-based, as saying to churches. Congress didn't do that, so he just did it by executive order, and this money flowed by the millions to these organizations, and it has been renewed by our current progressive president, including the fact that he apparently does not prohibit these people receiving federal funds from discriminating in their hiring. They don't have to hire someone of a different faith or of no faith at all, or from proselytizing. So what do you think about that?
Well, I was going to mention that in my previous statement, is certainly the current administration and certainly a number of Democrats around the country support faith-based organizations from the perspective that the government sends funds to them, even here in New Orleans. There are a number of faith-based organizations that receive funding either through the federal government or the state or the local government. And again, like I said, I don't have anything against these faith-based organizations. Most of them do great work, and their purposes are all extremely noble, and I support them greatly. But I do not believe they should be receiving money from government organizations.
Now, they also get government support in a more indirect way. If a taxpayer makes a donation to a faith-based organization, he can take it as a deduction on his federal income tax. So in another way, the government is supporting religious organizations. Now, the fact that we have the separation of church and state has produced in this country the largest number and variety of churches and religions and sects that you find anywhere in the world. And you would think that the religious people would be more than content, that they would really be overjoyed with this separation. Why aren't they?
I think, part of the goals of some people, I find, is that they want to use government as a tool to promote their religion, something that I absolutely disagree with. I don't believe in the use of government for those purposes. But they disagree, and they feel that it's their not only their moral. They claim that it's their moral duty to actually promote God through government. One recent example being the picture of Jesus that was hanged in the Slidell courthouse.
Yes.
That was only considered legal once they added a whole bunch of other lawgivers through history as well. And the unfortunate thing is, in the reality, I really think that they're actually hypocrites because they're not actually using government to promote religion. They're actually using religion to promote themselves.
All right. Well, now let's get on to another one of our goals, and I'll see how you feel about this one. One of our goals is to protect a woman's right to choose. That means to choose whether or not she wants to have an offspring, a baby. Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, I do not believe in banning abortions at all. I believe that there are definitely circumstances where a woman absolutely has to be allowed to have an abortion, including to save her life, and including in the case of rape. And in the case of rape, there's no way to legislate it effectively, so there's really no reason to legislate at all. But I think there's the recent case down in Brazil that's currently a hot topic. There was a 9-year-old girl who was raped by her stepfather and got pregnant with twins at 9 years old. And they went to the church to get a special dispensation to say, hey, she's really young, she might die. Can we please forgive her for seeking an abortion if she does? And the church said, no, we can't. It's against our religion. And they went ahead and did it anyway, and she was excommunicated. And now if you compare it to Judaism, Judaism requires that someone obtains an abortion to save their life. So that very reason alone, the different beliefs between religions, to me, tells me that it should not be something that should be left to government to decide.
You mean the religion to decide? Oh, government in the sense that legislated.
Right.
And you're in agreement with that viewpoint?
Well, I'm in agreement with Dan in the fact that I believe each individual has the right to choose which way they want to handle that particular issue. My argument for it, while I don't disagree at all with Dan's argument, is slightly different in the fact that if you look at it from a historical perspective, prior to the lifting of the ban on abortion in this country, there were still many, many abortions in this country.
Unsafe ones.
Unsafely done. And this has gone on through history. So if we were to just ban it again, we'd just be back at the same situation that we had before. And it really is a matter of, and this extends into the entire medical profession, that the people who are more affluent, they're not going to not have an abortion if they so desire to have one, even if there's a law against it, because they will be able to afford to find someone who will do that for them safely. It's really the people who can't afford to do it, the people who are not as well-to-do in this country, who are the people who are truly affected by this, and the people who are definitely getting the short end of the stick, say that.
And then they're forced to raise a child without the means to do so.
Well, either forced to raise a child or to have an unsafe abortion where they may be crippled or harmed in some way themselves.
Right. Well, now that we've covered those really non-controversial subjects, how about this one? We support the right to voluntary euthanasia, including physician-assisted dying. You got any views on that?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it. I've unfortunately have lived through several close friends who have had family members who have died from cancer, and they've gone through extremely painful living conditions, and unfortunately these people. It doesn't make any sense to put someone through that if they don't want to go through that. And of course, I also personally know of situations where essentially someone's come along and they've given them, enough morphine that in certain cases it may have been what caused them to pass away. So I don't understand why there are people who would argue against this. I'm sure there are people who argue against anything. Pick a topic and you'll find someone who can be pro and someone who can be con against it.
Well, of course, the people who are opposed to that are opposed to it for religious reasons.